Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to video number 478. Thank you. And more specifically, thank you. You're the ones that deserve a big round of applause if you've watched more than a couple of these over the last 3 years. Now, the channel focus hasn't really changed, or at least I don't think it's changed all that much since I started it. It's always been about the value end of the market. The unofficial motto being that you don't have to spend a fortune if you don't want to get a great watch on your wrist. And I have reviewed some great watches over the years. I thought that for video 500 I would do a top 10, maybe even a top 15 or top 20 of some of the best value for money watches that I've looked at over the last 3 years that I've been running the channel. One watch that will definitely be featuring on the list is this one, the Vostok Komandirskie GMT, built like a Russian tank, 200-meter automatic dive watch with a service interval of 10 years on the movement, $80 US. There just isn't anything like this on the market. You can find an automatic GMT for less, but nothing with the quality of the Vostok. It is a remarkable piece of engineering. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. So this is Vostok number 6 for me. I've owned 2 of the regular Komandirskies, both of which I got rid of because I just didn't like them. I've owned 3 amphibias, you can see 2 of them on the table, and I gave 1 of them away. And I think there's a clue in there. They call this a Komandirskie GMT, but to my mind, really, it's much more like an amphibia. It's a 200-meter dive watch, like the amphibias, unlike the Komandirskies, and it is the same size and shape as the amphibias as well. I guess that's one of the reasons I like it. I just couldn't get on with the little old school 30-meter water resistance field watch style Komandirskie, but I really do like this one. You perhaps noticed a recurring theme across the table here. All of these watches are now on mesh straps. The standard bracelets that come with Vostoks are notoriously poor, and I found that the original Vostok branded mesh straps are really good quality and not particularly expensive. So let's talk cash then. $80 from MERANOM for this Komandirskie GMT. They're out of stock at the time of writing, but do check back when the world isn't being ravaged by a pandemic. Likewise, the mesh strap, this is a 20mm, $12.50. I reckon one of the best mesh straps you can buy regardless of price. I've paid 2, 3 and 4 times that and haven't had the same quality that I've had from a Vostok mesh, so I highly recommend you popping one of those in your cart at the same time. MERANOM, by the way, is the factory shop. They've got the entire range. I usually buy from MERANOM because you can buy the accessories at the same time for the same postage fee. Plus, these are great watches to mod. I cut my teeth modding Vostoks. I'm still not particularly good, but it's like modding a tractor rather than modding your brand new Range Rover. And it's sized much more like an amphibia than a Komandirskie as well. So 41.5mm in diameter, lug to lug of 49, just over 15mm thick, but it doesn't look particularly obtrusive on wrist. 20mm lug width, and on this supplied, as I said, Vostok mesh. This one weighs in at 130 grams, so a good weight. I guess the mesh is a little bit lighter than the equivalent solid link bracelet, but it's probably chunkier than the nasty one that it's supplied with. I'll show you that later on. But unlike a lot of the older amphibias, this is not chromed brass. This is a stainless steel case. So stainless steel case, stainless steel crown, stainless steel bezel, and a really nice consistent brushed finish throughout. That is a domed acrylic crystal though, so it's like a plastic crystal. It will scratch, it will scuff. Indeed, this one had a big scuff on it when I dug it out the box yesterday. However, Poly watch, you can pick this one up all day long for less than $10. Great for your Casio collection, great for your Vostoks, great for your Omega Speedmaster man on the moon as well. Now, as I said in the intro, proper dive watch, 200 meters water resistance, and a screw down crown. If you buy your first Vostok, you probably are horrified the first time that you undo the crown. You think it's broken, but that's all part of the charm. That's all part of the design philosophy of this watch. There is a story, I won't go into it. It was designed by a couple of Soviet era engineers in the late 1960s. They simply didn't have the materials to match the dive watches of the West, so they had to kind of think around the problems as well. That acrylic dome crystal pushes into the case, making the watch more waterproof the more pressure's on it. There's a two-piece case back I'll show you later on. The crown is another nice feature. It does manual wind this watch. There's a little technique that you get quite used to if you've owned a number of Vostoks. The reason that the crown is wobbly is because the crown stem is not fully attached to the movement, meaning if you bash the crown stem, it is less likely to crack inside the movement, ruining the watch. You just replace the stem. All of the parts on this one are designed to be user serviceable, user replaceable as well. And this is definitely one of the more discreet Vostok dials available, shall we say. You saw from my selection earlier on, they can get pretty wild with paratroopers, KGB logos and God knows what else on them. I think this is probably a wise choice here. Arabic's printed on in white, there's a touch of red, kind of red and white's a bit of a Vostok standard, and that GMT hand also in red. Small seconds up there in an unusual location at the 10 o'clock. I don't think I've ever seen another watch with a small second up there at the 10, again in red. Bit of Cyrillic script, Komandirskie, and I believe that says 32 joules and made in Russia, either side of the Arabic at 6. Now there is a bit of lume on the hands and the indices with this one. There's also a nice little touch of lume on the GMT hand and a triangle in that brushed stainless steel bezel. Unfortunately, like any diver I've ever reviewed, under $100, the lume doesn't last all that well. Vostoks, generally speaking, are about the best of the budget divers though. This one's no different. It's okay, but it's not amazing. Now this is the original supplied Vostok branded bracelet. It would be remiss of me not to at least show you it. This is what you get as part of the package for $80 US. It's not the worst Vostok bracelet I've seen. In fact, it's probably the best one, but these links are still rolled. It will still take the hairs off your arms. The clasp is still pretty nasty, and when those excellent mesh straps are $12, it's a bit of a no-brainer, I reckon. Especially when the watch doesn't have fitted end links anyway. It's straight cut end links, so you're not really losing much aesthetically. As I said, the Vostok mesh is remarkably good for $12, definitely amongst the best that I've seen. Vostok branded, it's thick but it's not too thick, super comfortable and obviously infinitely adjustable, which you don't get with a leather strap or even the supplied bracelet. And there's a quirky two-piece caseback design as well. Like I said, I think they were designed on the basis that people would be taking the backs on and off of these. So the idea being that it's a two-piece design with a seal. You're far less likely to shear the rubber by taking the case back on and off on a regular basis. You'll see what I mean here. This case back just pops on, and it's that second outer ring that actually holds the whole thing together. Let me just pop that off, and there is a fairly rustic looking Vostok movement in the back. This is an in-house Vostok 242612 movement. 32 joules, roughly 32-hour power reserve as well when fully wound. It does manual wind as I showed you, but it does not hack. Though as always with these Vostoks, there are tricks. You can kind of hold the crown at a certain angle and manage to get the movement to stop without causing any great long-term damage to the movement. So that movement clearly isn't going to win any beauty competitions. It's not going to win any awards for accuracy either. Vostok allow themselves a fairly generous, shall we say, leeway of -20 seconds per day to +60 seconds per day, up to 1 minute fast variance from the factory. I should therefore thank my lucky stars that I got a pretty good one, +6 seconds per day with a healthy amplitude, 0 beat error. You notice there, I'm sure, 19,800 vibrations per hour at an unusual lift angle of 42 degrees. This one runs slower than your average movement, again helping to extend that service interval all the way out to a decade. Now there is an adjustment lever on the back of the movement, no problem taking the case back on and off as I've shown you. I have adjusted Vostoks in the past. Obviously that is easier to do with a time grapher, but it's not impossible to do with just one of those watch check apps on your phone. A bit of patience and a couple of days. But let's talk GMT, as certainly that's the reason I bought this watch, and I'd imagine that's the reason why most of you would be interested in this one as opposed to a regular Amphibia. So the fourth red hand there is a GMT hand, but it's a little bit old school. It is slaved to the hour and minute hand. Now what that means is that over the course of 24 hours that hand will rotate once, but it is permanently connected to the hour hand, if you will. It cannot be independently set. So here we are, 12 midday, that 24-hour hand is at 12. I'll spin it around to 12 midnight and it's at 6. And then I'll spin it all the way back round again. So the hour hand has moved in a 24-hour pattern, and that is one full rotation of the GMT hand. Now what that means is you are obliged to use this bezel then to keep track of the second time zone, and you can only keep track of one other time zone. So one with the hour and minute hand and one using the GMT hand. So the OCD amongst you are going to have to get used to having a bezel that is out of alignment. You're going to have it not lining up at the 12 and reading it that way. It's going to be squint more than likely. And that's it on top of my 7-inch wrist. It is unmistakably Vostok, but I don't think it is just super kitsch and super quirky. Some of those old Komandirskies just didn't really do it for me, the bright gold ones, etc. This is much more my cup of tea, and I think a much more wearable watch overall, thanks to that all brushed stainless steel finish. 15mm sounds pretty thick, and it is pretty thick by dive watch standards, but a lot of that is from that domed acrylic crystal. The watch itself sits fairly flat on the wrist. There's a little bit of downturn from those lugs there. 130 grams, not a bad weight on the mesh strap. Overall, it looks and feels pretty good in spite of some sharp edges from the case. Legibility, no problem at all, as you can see from the overall shot as well. Nice clean selection of colours on this one. The black, the red, the white means everything. Looks nice and clean, nice and easy to read. Once you get this one outside, that domed acrylic crystal does enhance the kind of vintage retro appeal of this one. You get that distortion at the edges of the viewing angle, but again, the colourway means it's still pretty legible. Those Vostok hands are basic, but they do a job. Pretty much sums up the whole watch, in fact. Basic, but it does the job. On wrist, I appreciate the fact that they've gone for a 20mm lug width with this one. 20mm is quite rare with the amphibias. They all either tend to be 18s or 22s, and I think 20mm is the sweet spot. It tends to kind of bring the size down a little bit overall, make the watch look and feel slightly more wearable. So clearly I'm a bit of a fan then of Vostoks in general, and this Komandirskie in particular. I'm not really sure where I'm going to go as a Vostok collector from here. This has ticked a lot of boxes for me. There are more expensive Vostoks. There's some of these new amphibias and new Komandirskies that are pushing well north of $150 US. For me, part of the appeal, a big part of the appeal of these Vostoks is because they're so damn cheap, and this one at $80 I reckon is the biggest bargain of the lot. Not without its compromises though. Obviously the crystal will require a bit of maintenance. That bi-directional bezel is going to have to take some getting used to. The junky bracelet that's basically a throwaway item to begin with, and the looks are not going to be to everyone's taste, I appreciate. But if you can find yourself one of these ones for the stated price when the Chistopol factory reopens, whenever that may be, you just get an awful lot of watch for your money. The only other automatic GMT that I've looked at for less than $100 on the channel was by Parnas. It looked sensational, it looked really expensive, but it had an unknown movement and therefore an unknown life expectancy. That's not something you can say of the Vostoks. They are nothing if not reliable and durable. So there you have it, the Vostok Komandirskie GMT, undoubtedly one of the best value for money watches that I've looked at for less than $100 US. It really does so much. Not everyone is into that kitsch Soviet era kind of over-styled look that you get from these Vostoks, but if you're even slightly intrigued by that, or you find that appealing, then I can wholeheartedly recommend that you find one of these ones. If you can find one of these ones at the moment, they seem to be in short supply perhaps. The coronavirus has shut down the factory in Chistopol for the time being. Dump the bracelet, stick it on a mesh, use it and abuse it, you'll love it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in video 500, if not before.